Okay, folks, what's up? Rich Van Tassel with you, giving you some of the recaps of the early games right now. We got some games going final. I'm looking back and forth. A lot of excitement going on, a game in overtime. Actually, that game just ended. The Chicago Bears won. But we'll start off with the London game. Told you I didn't think it was going to be this bad, but I knew Baltimore was going to have trouble with that London trip. 44-7 in favor of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and you see me looking back and forth. I'm looking at the Lions trying to score to win right now. Ryan Mallett got some time in this game. 6 of 9, 36 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He was actually the leading passer. Joe Flacco, not very good. 8 of 18, 28 yards. No touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So both quarterbacks combined 14 to 27 for 52 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. That's why you're going to lose a game 44-7 when your quarterback play is like that. Baltimore ran the ball pretty well. Alex Collins, 9 carries, 82 yards, 9.1 yards per average. Terrence West, 6 of 26. 4.3 yards per rush. The team altogether 25 of 134. That's 5.4 yards per rush. Nick Boyle, 2 receptions, 14 yards. Javoris Allen, 5 for 13. Benjamin Watson, 3 of 12. He had the touchdown, and it looks like Detroit just scored a touchdown. They'll probably review it, but it looks like the Detroit Lions are winning the game. Pick the Lions, by the way. Also pick the Jacksonville Jaguars. No sacks for the Baltimore Ravens, no interceptions, no kick returns, no punt returns. Justin Tucker did not kick any field goals for the Jaguars. It wasn't as I expected. Blake Bortles, 20 of 31, 244 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Corey Grant was the top rusher, 6 of 75. Leonard Fournette, 17 of 59, 3.5 yards per rush, 1 touchdown. The 6 of 75 was 12.5 yards per rush. Fournette still well under the 4 yards per carry mark. Altogether, the team 35 of 166. That's 4.7 yards per rush and the 1 touchdown. Marquise Lee, top receiver, 4 for 65. Mercedes Lewis, 4 of 62. He had 3 touchdowns. Chris Ivory, 2 of 25. Leonard Fournette, 3 of 21. Allen Hurns, 3 of 20. He had the other touchdown. Telvin Smith recovered a fumble. The team had 2 sacks, 1 split between Malik Jackson and Calais Campbell. Dante Fowler Jr. looks like he's finally starting to pay off. Had some injuries since being drafted as high as he was. He had a sack as well. A.J. Bowie and Jalen Ramsey, the 2 sensational corners for the Jaguars, both had interceptions. Bowie returned his 19 yards. Jalen Ramsey only 1 yard return. 1 for 12 in the kick returns by Keelan Cole. Marquise Lee, 2 of 2 in his punt return, so really nothing there. And Jason Myers, 3 for 3 in his field goals. Now, with the Jaguars, I expected that they were going to limit Blake Bortles, especially against the good Baltimore Ravens secondary, and rely much more heavily on Leonard Fournette. They did rely on the running game, but that was Corey Grant with 12.5 yards per rush. Blake Bortles had a good game. They clearly opened it up for him. 20 of 31, 244 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Look, if Blake Bortles plays like that, we'd have no problems with Blake Bortles, and Jacksonville would clearly be in contention to win that division, as they still are right now. The question is next week he going to come out and go 16 for 28 for 130 yards and throw 3 interceptions and fumble once and only have 1 touchdown? We'll have to see. As for the Baltimore Ravens, look, take what you will from it. It was a London trip. Sometimes that affects teams. They clearly played bad. We'll have to see what they do next week. But you look at it, they were able to run the ball fairly effectively. Granted, they were down, and I'm sure running the ball a lot. So that's something to keep an eye on, because my biggest question with them is the running game. There were a lot of surprising games with this one. Minnesota really handed it to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I was shocked by this one, 34-17. Jameis Winston, 28 of 40, 328 yards, 2 touchdowns, the 3 interceptions. Jameis Winston has got to limit those turnovers. Jacquizz Rodgers, 5 for 15 running. Jameis Winston, 1 of 4. Charles Sims, 2 of 4. The team, 9 of 26, 2.9 yards per rush. So Jameis Winston did have the turnovers. That's clearly been a problem for him, but you're running the ball like that, a lot more is going to be needed from him. Deshaun Jackson, 4 of 84, 21 yards per reception, 1 touchdown. His longest was 32, so pretty good there. Adam Humphries, 6 of 68. Mike Evans, who was losing it on the sideline, went 7 of 67. Chris Goodwin, 3 of 44. And Cameron Brate, 4 receptions for 33 yards, 1 touchdown. Jameis Winston fumbled twice, recovered both of them, so he was, that situation that we've seen with him. Granted, the fumbles were not lost, but we've seen the turnovers. Bernard Reedy, 3 kick returns, 79 yards, but a longest of 50 with the 26.3 average, so that definitely elevated the numbers a bit. Nick Folk, 1 for 1 in his field goals. For the Minnesota Vikings, Sam Bradford didn't go, no problem. Case Keenum, 25 of 33, 369 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interception. At this point, you would be wondering maybe would they bench Sam Bradford when he comes back. But, I mean, where was this? Los Angeles Rams fans have got to be wondering where this was last year from Case Keenum. Dalvin Cook, again, continues to impress. 27 of 97. It was below the 4 yards per carry mark at 3.6 per carry, but he did have a touchdown. Case Keenum, 6 of 18. Latavius Murray, 2 of 5. And Jerick McKinnon, 2 of 5. So Latavius Murray is really doing nothing. 37 of 125, 3.4 yards per rush, 1 touchdown. Was the running. Stephon Diggs, 8 of 173, 2 touchdowns. Adam Thielen, and a longest of 59 for Stephon Diggs. Adam Thielen, 5 of 98. Dalvin Cook, 5 of 72, so a good game for him. Jarius Wright was 2 for 9 with the other touchdown. It was no sacks for Tampa Bay, by the way. The Minnesota Vikings had 2 sacks, Shamar Stephen and Everson Griffin. Everson Griffin, very underrated guy. The 3 interceptions were Anderson Sedejo, Trey Waynes, and Harrison Smith. Jerick McKinnon, a 20-yard kick return. Kai Forbath, 2 for 2 in his field goals. So, Minnesota, look, their quarterback play is really the issue I have with this team. Their defense is good. They have a good running game. You had Sam Bradford play very good in week 1. Then he got hurt. Case Keenum plays very good in this game, and they've won both of those games. So, we'll have to see what happens moving forward with this team. And it looks like the Eagles have just given themselves a chance for a game-winning field goal here. It'll be about a 60-yarder. As for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we've discussed it at length. Jameis Winston, when he turns the ball over, that is the problem for this team, and he was again sloppy in this game. So, really disappointing performance by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team trying to elevate themselves, and they just did not come out ready to play here. The Miami Dolphins losing to the New York Jets as the Jets get their first victory. This is a 61-yard attempt, by the way, for the Eagles to win. It was 20-6 in favor of the Jets. Jay Cutler, 26 of 44, 220 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So he wasn't horrible with his turnovers, but he did have 18 incompletions on 44 passes. Jay Ajayi was not running the ball well at all. 11 carries, 16 yards. Jay Cutler, 1 of 9. That was 1.5 for Ajayi. The team, 15 of 32 yards per rush. So that Jets defensive line that has struggled at times clearly played well in this game. Devontae Parker, 8 receptions, 76 yards, a touchdown. That touchdown came at the end of the game, though, when it was 20-0 as time expired, so it really didn't matter except for you fantasy goofs. Kenny Stills, 4 of 51. Jarvis Landry, 6 of 48. And you know what? I'm not going to let that slide. That's why fantasy football is stupid, because Devontae Parker just scored that touchdown. That means nothing in the game. So you guys just don't ever talk to me about fantasy again, okay? It's meaningless. Sorry, I had to let that go. Fumbles for the Dolphins. Mike Hall recovered 1. Jakeem Grant fumbled once, and it was recovered by him. Or he either covered the other guy's one, whatever. He had a fumble. He fumbled and he recovered 1. Cameron Wake had a sack. Andre Branch had a sack. No interceptions. Jakeem Grant, 1 kick return for 15 yards. This kick is good. 61-yarders. The Philadelphia Eagles just slided in to win. Unbelievable. So we'll get into those games after we record these ones. Cody Parker did not kick a field goal. And again, I apologize that I'm going back and forth. We got games finishing and games ending. But what a... wow. Okay, Josh McCown, 18 of 23, 249 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Bilal Powell, 15 of 37, 2.5 yards per rush, 1 touchdown. Elijah McGuire, 17 of 34, 4.9 yards per rush. The team altogether 34 of 133 yards per rush and 1 touchdown. Robbie Anderson, the top receiver, 3 of 95, 1 touchdown. Jermaine Kearse, 3 of 42. Jeremy Curley, 5 of 42. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, 5 of 31. You look at this, 2, 4, 6 guys caught passes, 2 guys with 5 receptions, 2 other guys with 3 receptions. Josh McCown did fumble twice, but recovered both of them. Elijah McGuire lost a fumble. The team had 3 sacks. Buster Screen, a corner, had 1. David Boss had the other. Jamal Adams, a safety I really like, had the other. Terrence Bass, 2 interceptions, returned them both for 13 yards. Jeremy Curley, 4 of 31 in his punt returns. There were no kick returns. Chandler Cantazero, 2 of 3. Look, the Jets, surprisingly, their offense hasn't been as god-awful as I expect. I'm surprised they won. Again, I said I would not pick the Jets. I didn't think they'd go 0-16, but I would never pick them to win. But, you know, I probably should have at least considered it, but not against the Miami Dolphins, because I expected the Dolphins were going to be able to come away with this. They couldn't. Jay Cutler showing his true colors yet again, though he did not turn the ball over. But look, Miami didn't rush the ball, and give the New York Jets offensive line credit for keeping that defensive front in check for the most part. And Jamal Adams, another guy to keep an eye on. He's playing very well. I really like that kid, Jamal Adams. That's where the development is for the Jets. But hey, even with the Patriots, who I believe won, I didn't see the end of that game. I don't know if the Texans kicked the field goal, but the Buffalo Bills also won. So the top team is 2-1 that division, so they're only a game out. And who would have thought that the Jets would be 1-2 and the Giants would now be 0-3? And we'll finish up with the first part of these with this one: the Buffalo Bills beating the Denver Broncos 26-16. Buffalo moving to 2-1. We'll talk about the implications in a moment. Trevor Siemian, boy, I'll tell you what, the Cowboys' defense has got to be embarrassed that they let Siemian pick them apart, because he was pretty bad in this game. 24 of 40, 259 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Jamal Charles, 9 carries, 56 yards, 1 touchdown. C.J. Anderson, 8 of 36, 4.5. It was 6.2 for Jamal Charles, so they were running the ball well. Trevor Siemian, 3 of 12. The team altogether 23 of 118, 4.8 yards per rush, and the touchdown. Demaryius Thomas, 6 receptions, 98 yards. Emmanuel Sanders, 7 of 75. Benny Fowler III, 4 of 55. No fumbles, 4 sacks, one of them by Shelby Harris, another by Von Miller. Brandon Marshall had one. That's the linebacker, Brandon Marshall, and Todd Davis had the other. Cody Latimer, 3 kick returns, 81 yards, longest of 36 with a 27-yard average. That's pretty good and pretty consistent in that regard. Isaiah McKenzie had a 16-yard punt return. There were no interceptions. I believe I said that. Brandon McManus, 3 for 3 in his field goals for the Buffalo Bills. Tyrod Taylor, 20 of 26, 213 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Not a lot of yards, very proficient, good game by Tyrod Taylor. Mike Tolbert, 11 carries, 41 yards, 3.7. LaShawn McCoy, 14 of 21, 1.5 yards per rush. Tyrod Taylor, 8 of 13. So they ran the ball 33 times for 75 yards, yet they only had 2.3 yards per rush. So they stayed consistent, but they were a better running team than that. Last year, they were the top running team in the league. Jordan Matthews, 3 receptions, 61 yards. LaShawn McCoy, 7 of 48. Charles Clay, 6 of 39. He had a touchdown. Andre Holmes, 2 of 6. He had the other touchdown. Normally, I wouldn't tell you about a guy who caught 2 passes for 6 yards unless they had the touchdown. Shaq Lawson, look, that's going to be big. Him coming back from injury and continuing to develop. He had a sack in this game. Kyle Williams had a sack as well. There were 3 sacks. Who had the other one? Why am I missing this? I don't know if it must have been one of those team sacks, because it only has Shaq Lawson and Kyle Williams listed. Tre'Davious White, the rookie, had an interception. They need him. E.J. Gaines had the other. Brandon Tate, 2 kick returns, 41 yards, longest of 23, so consistent, but nothing spectacular. Brandon Tate also had 2 punt returns for 20 yards, 10 yards per average, longest being 17. Stephen Hoshka, 4 for 4 in his field goals. Look, Buffalo is now 2-1. They're atop that division, however you want to say it. They haven't had the hardest schedule at the beginning of the year, but hey, Denver was 2-0. They beat the Carolina Panthers, who lost today. They are 2-1, so give them credit for that. This was games that they've struggled to win. These past couple years, of course, they haven't been in the playoffs in, 18 years, but certainly is McDermott getting them to play, more consistent, or just more with that winning attitude. That's certainly something to keep an eye on. They were able to get the job done. Their defense has been very underrated thus far. Tre'Davious White coming along, those are very good things. As for the Denver Broncos, look, Trevor Siemian was very good last week. Does it speak to how bad the Cowboys defense is? Does it speak to just a better Buffalo Bills defense than the Dallas Cowboys? Does it speak to he couldn't possibly play as well as he did last week? I don't know. It's a situation. You see what happens next week. He wasn't really as god-awful as it looked just when I was seeing the clips, but certainly we'll see what happens with him moving forward. Again, you can't go necessarily game to game, especially still this early in the season. It is only 3 games in, and I just saw that Cincinnati actually scored a touchdown, so that's news there. But they ran the ball very well. They have been running the ball. Their defense I don't know. I can't say they were fairly good in this game. You give up 26 points to a Buffalo Bills offense that's not very good, but they basically prevented Buffalo from running the ball. So, Denver clearly, maybe it was the travel that did them in, but we'll have to see what happens moving forward. Certainly not a good performance from them. All right, we'll be back in just a little bit to finish off with the 1 o'clock games. Be sure to stay tuned for that. Thank you all so much.